Behind every powerful scene, every emotional cut or cinematic world, the editors and post-production teams are shaping that final story. So today, the first conversation, what do film editors actually do? What do visual effects editors do?
Everyone here on the panel has a film or a TV show that has been nominated at Kalasha. Congratulations on that. So we did want to talk about the styles and how they approach their work.
Hello everyone. My name is Omar Hamza and I am a writer-director. I run a production house called Giza Visuals where we make independent Kenyan films, and we also run a TVOD platform where people can watch really nice Kenyan films called Rafu TV. At the moment we are doing post-production for a feature film that is set to release later this year called Juana Mwezi. The thing about how we work, since I'm the director and I'm also the editor, so I have to have the post in mind even as we go into production. And that really helps in the planning and the execution of things, especially like when you're on set and you're strapped on time. If you have the editing knowledge on hand, it's easy to prioritize which shots are important and which ones are not, what you should focus on and what you can just let slide, so to speak. So with Sayari, it's an audience film, it's a comedy, and editing comedies is very hard, kidogo, more than usual, because it's all about timing. Yeah, so the process was just knowing that it's a comedy film, how to communicate to an audience through the visual medium, and how you can achieve that through editing. Like the cuts, the comedies plays in the long shots, and then the emotional beats plays in the close-ups, and how to sort of balance that so that the movie feels intimate, but there's also levity in it. But I guess the biggest advantage that I had is because I was still the director. So I think my process is going to be a bit different than yours or Jibril's, because you guys get footage brought to you and then that's what you have to work with. But me, I'm just a proactive editor who goes out and gets the footage myself.
My name is Jibril Ogada. I'm an actor, editor. So right now I'm in front of you as an editor. I have done Owadwa, and currently I'm an editor at Cape Studios. And so nice to be here, so nice to see everyone here. For Owadwa it was easier because I was involved from before, even before they started writing. I was involved. I knew who the writers were, the direction they are taking. You see the drafts, you see the direction that, or rather what they want to achieve. And then when they started shooting, I was there. It was not like people were shooting, then when they finish, now that's when they send you the script and the footage. For me, it was easier because I was on set. I was the one doing DIT. I was dumping footage. Like, I was attached to the story. So, and another easy thing was the director, Chandra. She knew exactly what she wanted, and she was able to communicate directly to me what she wanted. So there wasn't a time where I was alone just editing by myself. I was there with her. She was directing me. So even creative-wise, I was there with her. I was handling more of the technical stuff and also creative-wise, so we can discuss. Say, in this scene, we can use ABCD. In this scene, this won't work because of ABCD. And also the music that we used. You see, for Mark, he is autistic, so, and okay, I'm not that sure, but they are kind of sensitive to sound. So the music approach was very specific, and we had to be very careful with what we use, and also the pacing. So that's how we approached it, and we got the inspiration from The Bear, if you've watched The Bear. Yeah, so the bear was the inspiration. So we have specific scenes, especially the kitchen scene, that like it was very specific. Even from the shooting, it was already in her head how she wanted that to look in post. So we only had the specific footage which we wanted. We were not like trying to see if this works or if this won't work. We already knew what will work, and we only shot what we wanted. So that was kind of easy for me, and that's why the storytelling is, it's very specific. You won't be confused, oh, what are they trying to do? Like, you won't be confused. Like, from the moment you start watching it, it's very specific, and that's how it was easy on my side editing.
Mark, this was not easy. Like, I know it's you make it look easy. Please tell us your process, especially also the length of doing this thing, because you did want to have it released at a specific time. Like, you guys really had a plan for it. So just tell us how the concept came about, because I know the director, the late Nick Wambuku, he approached you. Tell us about how it came about, please.
My name is Mark Miner. I call myself a filmmaker because I have written, I have directed, I have edited, I have post-produced, I have done VFX, I have trained, all in film. So yeah, I'm a filmmaker. I've been practicing filmmaking for the last 13 years. And I've been involved with a lot of productions in terms of narrative films and also documentaries. And I'm also an alumni of the Film Academy Baden-Württemberg, which is a film school in Germany. And let me say, I have also explored different industries in Germany and in Nigeria. I was working for Ebony Life for a couple of years, gained some valuable experience over there. So at least now I'm back, and I've just recently worked on a film called The People Shall. I was one of the two directors and also the editor of the film. The project actually began with James Smart. So James approached myself and Nick, and then he said, okay, we wanted to document the 2024 finance bill protests. And the idea we had was we wanted to get all the different sections of how we came from hashtags to the streets. So we began a long process of trying to identify who we would end up interviewing, because Nick and I both co-directed the film, and we decided that the style that we were going for would be, you know, we don't want it to look reportage, we don't want it to feel like it's TV made for TV, so to say. We wanted it to be very cinematic. Nick and I both loved World War II films, and we often used to talk a lot about, you know, the rhythm, the suspense and all that, but we couldn't decide a lot because at the time we just had material, we just had footage, because Nick had already shot some things on the streets, and then James also helped through to get some footage from NTV, you know, the networks, Citizen, KTN. So in total we had almost around 16 TB of footage. Yeah, because, you know, every day in the protest, the cameras are rolling, so we have to decide what do we put where, what do we put where. So there was a lot of time taken cataloging the footage. So we know, okay, this is before the protest began. This is maybe on the 18th of June when the protest was very new. This was 20th of June, this was now the 25th of June during the invasion of Parliament, and then the Saba Saba. So a lot of the writing happened in post, because also when you add the footage and then you add the interviews for the collaborators that we interviewed, you have a lot of footage, and some of them, sometimes you have 4 hours of them talking. So you're like, I have to transcribe everybody, and then where do you talk about femicide? Okay, this is the section talk about femicide. This is how I will catalog you here. You have. So what we did, we opened an Excel sheet, and I'm happy my assistant editor was here as well.
Hey, stand up, we see you. Nice.
So I gave him his work. His work was to mainly catalog footage. So let's say you have tear gas being thrown. So you catalog it, tear gas being thrown, clip number this, and these are the keywords to look out for. So whenever I'm now going into the cutting, I'm thinking about, okay, I need to see a tear gas canister. Search tear gas canister, and then I find the clip, and then it's easy to put it through. So that helped reduce my work because, it can take a lot of time. We began the project sometime early 2025, I think January 2025. And by the time we were releasing, it was almost going towards just now the 1-year anniversary, June of 2025. But in between, we had to take a short break because my co-director and 3 others were arrested in connection with a similar documentary called The Blood Parliament. Yeah?
Abducted.
Yeah, so essentially that reduced almost like 2 months. We were like, trying to understand what's going on because a lot of the footage was confiscated. Luckily, they didn't confiscate the footage we had because apparently I was the one with the footage and no one knew. But yeah, it was a labor of love, working under very, you're almost fearful, you're almost feeling like there's a bit of digital surveillance, so to say. So we had to be very careful with what even the interviewers were saying. Like we had to censor a little bit of things because with the documentary, it can elicit a bit of anger, a bit of frustration. So obviously people will get emotional talking about things that happened on the days of the protest. So we had to be mindful of their safety as well, and also just not to put them into a bit of trouble. So that's also another thing that I think editors need to be considerate of if you're editing very sensitive topics. How do you approach the material? So eventually we released it on primetime TV, NTV, 2 days after the 2025 finance bill protest. And it was well received, but that was a version for TV. And then now eventually we went back to edit, and then that's when we looked at it in a very cinematic, or rather, let me say, cinematic kind of way where the film now can travel. And we are happy that it's also getting a lot of traction internationally. So that's a good thing. But the storytelling was, we wanted to give a bit of suspense, the sound design was very important. We didn't want to just have a lot of talking heads. We wanted, as much as the action is there as well, we can also listen to people, because people give emotions, and emotions are very key. Beyond even the story, for me, what is really important is emotion. If I can get you to laugh, if I can get you to cry, I know that I've achieved something.
Hello, my name is Monica Mugo. I'm an editor. I do sound design, I do scoring, I write music for films and music. And I'm a post supervisor, post producer, and I do cinematography here and there, and directing partly. The beauty that accompanies Sugar as a series is that it involved a lot of people, and when you're dealing with a series, each person has an episode or two. And now you have to match the pacing, you have to match the plot lines, you have to make sure everything is in order. But the other beauty that came with Sugar was you're not just an editor. So the experience that you've gathered across the timeline as an editor for all those years, you're editing documentaries, you're editing music videos, because you notice Sugar has a lot of energy. Sometimes, you know, we have lows, we have highs, and when you look at the storyline, you need to pay attention to the messaging because it's also very sensitive. You know, these are daily occurrences in people's lives. You have to respect that. And the beauty about being an editor is that we interpret that, we honor the integrity of the story, you know. So my biggest advice or takeaway for each project that an editor would be taking or undertaking is that learn to work with each and every genre, understand music, because with Sugar we were inventing as we were going. Today you've done this and tomorrow we realize, okay, we're not doing justice to this character. Now that means you have to rearrange everything, including episode 1 all the way to episode 8, you know. And sometimes you have to cut out a whole scene, and that affects episode 1, affects episode 5. So you are synchronized as much as this person is editing. We are all editing from home. We only meet once in a while, you know. So it takes a lot of discipline for you to be there, to be trusted, to be a representative. And we have another community in South Africa. So you're dealing with Kenyan team and South African team. So the final comment about Sugar is that when you're an offline editor, it doesn't mean you just cut and leave. No, you're sound designing, you're scoring, you have to choose the music by yourself. No one is choosing it for you. When the guy who is composing music releases the album, it's for you to decide where the tone applies, you know. So if you miss it, you miss it. If you get it right, you get it right. But we do not have a leeway for errors with Sugar. It was about precision, you know. So that's the beauty of it. And when we say these things, and together with our panel here, because I've worked with, you know, this was my director. We won an award with him back in 2023, Best ZIF for our feature. So these are people we have worked with across, you know. And you realize as you were working on your editing, we're no longer doing trial and errors. We are representing Kenya as post-producers and as AFEK and as editors and designers. We are doing it based on the budget that you have been given, but we do not have a room for any error. Yes.
First, amazing work. It's just a joy to see you up there and hear you talk about your work. My question is, I guess it's half from the director's perspective and the editor's perspective, which is how often are you finding storyboards to guide your work as an editor or as a director sort of trying to guide the editor's work?
Sorry, is she here? Sorry, could you say it again? Storyboards. Okay. How often are storyboards used?
Yeah, are you, you know, in your director's, with your director's hat on, are you doing storyboards, okay, even just for key scenes to guide your editor, if you're not the same person? Or as an editor, are you ever sort of served up the storyboards to guide your work?
Hello? So I used a storyboard once in a feature film as a director, though. It's called Rishai. It was very rudimentary. I just did it myself with stick figures and stuff. And it was really, really super helpful. And then I've never used a storyboard again, and I don't know why. But right now we are working on a sci-fi short film called Nje with my co-producer, Juneregi. And we are actually onboarding a storyboard artist once again. Yeah, because it was really, really helpful for us.
Personally, I use storyboards because I direct a lot. majority of the projects I've edited, I've directed, so I have an idea of what was there before. But in the situation that probably I've just been involved in post-production, we usually get, let me say, like a pitch deck or a look and feel of the film. The style, all this is usually prepared by the director. So we get them so that we know, okay, how do we then approach the editing process? Is it a fast-paced cut? Is it, because also, you use a blueprint of, or rather you use a script as your blueprint, but also the script may not give you a rhythm per se. It gives you dialogue, it gives you context, it gives you environment. But I think it's also important to get some of this from directors. I usually have this sit down. We have like a fast brief of how they would like, so that you don't have a lot of back and forth. I think it's usually kind of helpful. Yeah.
Well, I'll just echo what they have said. I don't think, because I've been in similar situations where I've used the storyboard, and sometimes it depends with what the director has offered. If they have offered a storyboard, I'll use it, and if they haven't, I'll just have to use the script. But a storyboard is it's like the foundation of the story, but most of the times I've just used a script.
Storyboards are good, but this is just to add, you need not to be so rigid, because when it comes to pacing, sometimes you'll find the sequence of your shots or the way you envisioned everything based on the aesthetics of the shot and the scene, it's not working. So including the script, sometimes we throw away the script and you throw away the storyboard. Yeah, and now you have to restructure everything. And that's where now you forget everything that you had locked in pre-production, because in every stage the story changes, the composition of everything changes. And so when it changes, you move with the story, because at the end of the day, it's the integrity of the story. It's not about you. What does the story require? If your storyboard, you put it and maybe technically a few shots and tells you maybe 10 minutes, I'm assuming in terms of time. So do we shorten everything to fit the time, or do we allow the story to just unfold, And that means we might get rid of this shot for the sake of the continuity, because how you see it sometimes, the way the shots are following each other is not how, how it's coherent, And so when it gets to that point, I'll tell you, don't be so rigid, Just let the story be. It's never that serious, as much as it's serious. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. My name is Derek Ndoli. I'm a film student and a film director. So I've watched each and every one of your films, at least one. So I have a question for each and every one of you. So first, for you, The People Shall. I was watching the documentary. Then I was while shooting the documentary. I don't know how you knew what you were going to get, and how you made sure that I have what I want on set. And also, you have been nominated for the best sound and the best music. I think, how did you make sure that it being chaotic on the street, you found what you wanted for the specific documentary that you wanted to make? And to you, I watched Sukari and Sayari. I love Sukari, where the scene where you depict how now the guy is now able to satisfy the woman. And I don't know how you communicate to the actors, because I'm a member of a drama festival, and how you depicted the scene, it's like it's PG. A kid can watch the scene and understand that it's not going to be disturbance to the kid. So, and I've watched Owadua. I have a question for you. You say the director knew what she wanted even before going to set. My first question is, did she sit with you down, then she told you that you watched Bear with her before the scene, or she asked, and told you this is what I want? Because I loved the kitchen scene. It was very natural for me when the woman cooking, gossiping. I loved the scene. And I just don't know how you communicated with her so that you make sure that you give her exactly what she wanted. And also talking to the actors. You can have something in mind as a director, and when it comes to the actors, they can fail to deliver the way you pictured it in your head. You know, once long as the script, you only can deliver 80% of what you have written or what you have in mind. So, and for you, I've watched MTV Sugar, and I'm just going to ask you to talk about the music in MTV Sugar. The music drives the story for me for MTV Sugar, and I think you guys use music well in the first season I watched, and the music was giving me what I wanted. Was the mood and what was happening. I loved it. But I have a question. There are some places where you used already made song, not the song specific for the film, but already made songs that are out there by our Kenyan artists. So how did you go about choosing that you're going to use this specific music for this specific scene? Because you said if you missed it, you passed it. That's why we're watching the second season. I think there are some scenes that passed me because the music was not going with me. So how are you as an editor working on making sure that the music goes hand in hand with what we were seeing? Thank you.
So I'll be quick because there are very many questions in there. How did I choose footage for which part? I will say, like I said before, so we had to catalog the clips so that we know, okay, there's a lot of high intensity moments here, there's a lot of, let me say, slower motion, some shots were in slow-mo. And I also think it's a question of emotion and rhythm, because what we were doing was, if you watch a film that is, 80% noise and chaos, you'll get tired. Your ears will be like, okay, I've had enough. But what we did was we create a little bit of chaos and then we slow it down. Maybe we create chaos and then we go to parliament. What's happening in parliament? It's a lot of talking, arguing. And then we go to the interviewers. So it was that feeling of you take people up and then you take them down. You put them into the streets when people are chanting and doing the protest, and then you take them to a quieter place. And then we also have title cards to guide people. So we have, let's say this is the 18th, this is the 20th, just for people to understand how each of those protests were different, because they were kind of different. And I think also, because you've mentioned you're a film student, I think one thing I would advise you to do is look into editing for genres, because you can be given a comedy, it has a different style. You can be given a psychological thriller, you can be given an action film, and even the people who do short form content, social media content, that's very different. Because I remember in a previous TV show I was working on, they brought in an editor who was mostly doing short form content. But now we wanted to have a narrative story done. So it was a bit of a learning curve for him. So it's also good to be diverse so that you know what are your strengths. Are you more into long form narrative editing or into the short form? But editing for genre, I think that's one thing that is good to be good at. Yeah.
So for the question about how we made the film PG, especially with what the themes were, I think back when we were in high school and we were doing fasihi, there's something they would say with methali is maana fiche. Like bendera hufuata upepo, that's the open wording, lakini maana fiche ni kuwa watu hufuata mkondo, essentially. So in English, that's just subtext, and it's something very important in filmmaking. People don't always say or do or show what you mean. You just have to create the visuals for the audience to fill in the gaps on their own. And it's much more fun for the audience because their minds are engaged and the storytelling becomes very visual and engaging. In terms of how you speak to an actor, I think the most important thing you can do is have conversations with them before you get to set. Talk about the story, talk about who the characters are, have these conversations as much as possible so that you get on the same page in terms of what the world is, what the scene is supposed to do. And then when you're on set, actors can sometimes forget the context of the scene. So you just remind them like, hey, this character right before he or she came to this scene, she was in this sort of mood, or this is what was happening before, and this is what they're going to do afterwards. So this is the transition from them being happy and then they're going to be angry. So now once you have all that context in place, it becomes so much easier to communicate to the actors. Yeah.
For Owadwa, and watching The Bear, you see the way you as a director, you already have an idea in mind, maybe, and you don't even know when you'll shoot it, you just have an idea. So that's how it was for Chandra. She already had that idea in her mind. So I think it was in 2022 or 2021, she had mentioned that to me, and she mentioned that she wants to do a feature, and the inspiration will be from The Bear. So I watched it, and we shot Owadwa in 2020. Is it 2024 or 2023? I can't remember. That's when we shot it. So I had already watched it way before. It's not like you're being told you are shooting next week, this is the idea. It was done before. Even before scripting, even before writing, she already knew that the inspo was from The Bear. And also for the actors, rehearsals. I think there's no shortcut. So after casting the actors, they had rehearsals. The actors already knew what they were coming to do, and it was easy for them. So for us, we were not fixing anything in post. There was no fixing anything. The actors had their line. They knew what they were doing. Actually, it's like they made the work easy for us. We were not trying out like let's pick the sound from this scene, or in this she was performing well, so let's use this instead of using this. We were not doing such thing. We were just doing our jobs, and everyone did their job, and that made it easy for us. And yeah, I think, have I answered your question? Okay.
So about music, one thing about MTV Sugar, music is not randomly selected. It's intentional. Why? Music is it's a subtext to the main themes and the plot lines and everything. So whatever has been written, executed in production, when we edit, we add music. When that music is added, it's not for fillers. You know, there are people who add music as editors just to fill the gap and, to paste everything. But in MTV, you find that even the producer has to read the script, has to understand why are we producing this score. And then he has to produce, like, let's say, a whole album which has like 30 scores, And then each message in each song features in a specific scene based on a certain theme, So when you come in late, you're not just laying it, because sometimes they give us a whole score and then we call them and tell them, okay, I need the steps for this, and then you rearrange, like you just tear it apart and then you rearrange it according to yourself, the mixer will mix it, you know. So when you're laying down the music, you're not just putting it. If I want you to feel the adrenaline that the scene has at that moment, we will find a score that elevates that, including the frequencies of that music, including the message, the vocals, how are we laying them. So you'll find, if you look at the timeline, if our coordinator allows us to, you know, to share them, you'll be able to see a track is not just a track. If it's a club bang, it's not just a club banger. We're not just pacing, we're not covering. You know, music can be used to cover mistakes, but you're not covering mistakes. We're trying to make you be in that moment, immerse you in that moment. And that's why you'll find maybe season 1 was a bit hyper because we're introducing you to the hype world. Because music also is used to introduce you into a scene so that you may be able to feel and understand. If you listen to a Kenyan score, you realize, tumefika Nairobi. Tukieka piano, you realize you have switched the environment. You're in what? South Africa. But it's not a South African story. It's a Kenyan story. And if I'm going to tell you a story about Kisumu, I'm going to take you to Kisumu. The other way to introduce you to Kisumu is, aside from the establishing shots, it's music. So we are very intentional, again, not to just place music, but to make sure when you're immersed, you feel it, you enjoy it, but at the end of the day, it drives the story forward. I hope that answers you. Yes, thank you.
Do we have a question there?
So hi guys. My name is Angela Mombi. I am a filmmaker, film editor, and I have just one question to everyone or anyone who can answer. Is there a hierarchy when it comes to editing? Because most of the time, you hear someone saying this is a chief editor or head editor, this is the person who cuts the stuff, then it goes to the other person for sound, VFX, color. So what does that mean? Because most of the time, especially if it's a small team, you find yourself doing everything. Be it color, be it DIT, be it sound, be it VFX. So how does someone go about that? And I had another question, but it's gone. But yeah, that's the main question.
So first I'll ask you a question, because then it'll help us answer that question. And you guys will understand why. What is the budget? Because it really does take a team, but you have a good representation here. But I'm going to throw this question to Omar, because I'm getting the feeling that this is something that you are doing with a group of people, and you're trying to understand how the decision-making process can go in terms, but it's not exactly like this high-end thing.
Yeah.
Omar is the legend here.
For me, I just do everything. I'm sorry. So, yeah, because you when you're starting out, or depending on where you are in your career path, you do stuff. You cut the timeline, and then you put in the sound, and then you put in the music, and then you do the color grade. But at some point, you do it for long enough that you actually get good at it, and then there's just no need to get anyone on board anymore. The good thing is that software has grown. Like, the software right now is really, really good, and I'm sure the AI guys will talk to that. But something like DaVinci, it can do really good sound and really good music, like mastering. It can do really good color grade, and it really helps a lot. It becomes like an assistant to every department that you'd want to go to. So it's fine if you have the energy, the time, and the resources to get people on board. Sure, do that. If you have friends, ask them out. If you have the funds to do it, hire people. But there's no hard and fast rules. Maybe Monica would disagree, since she works with teams of people. But there's no hard and fast rules. If you can edit, just edit. If you can color it, there are a lot of LUTs out there. Like, there's so much resources for every single department of film. So take advantage of that. Just do it. It's quite easy nowadays. Yeah.
But for the decision-making process, there is definitely a way to go about it so things don't get jumbled up. And he actually said the order. Now, this is the problem of dealing with geeks. He gave the answer, but he gave it like, yeah. I hope you caught it. Yeah, and then Mark will also chip in. But yes, you lock the picture first, so that's the editing, and you have your assistant there, and then you go down, yeah. So let Mark say it.
So I think for post-production, it starts with a post-production supervisor. So that's the person who will basically be answering to a producer or a director, so to say. Down there, then you have a post-production coordinator. So this is the person who is going to be in charge of the editing process, the footage, the kind of sound that will be brought in. How do these people communicate? This person answers to the post-production supervisor. And then after that, then you have maybe, I would say, offline editors. So these are the people who actually now cut. Now, in the offline editors, you have the editor, you can have the assistant editor, you can have an intern over there. They are the ones in charge of cutting, let's say, doing the first rough cut, the first cut, and then the final cut. Those are the 3 cuts that we usually have. So the final cut, the first rough cut is for editors. And then the first cut, you sit with the director, and then you come up with a first cut. And then the final cut is now where a producer is involved, the bigger people who are involved in the marketing and all that are also part of them. And then now, once you lock picture, because you have the final cut, then you go to now online editing. Now, this is where color grading happens, final mix happens, and final mix has different stages. There's dialogue editing, Foley, all that. And then color grading is color grading. You have color correction and color grading. And then after that, then when you finish, then you have guys to do subtitles, guys to do VFX if it's needed, or GFX, and then all of them eventually come up with a master show, a master film, master show, something. So basically, I would say that's the concatenation of the roles. Yeah.
Okay, so actually to everyone, so sorry, we're going to come to a thing. We're going to have master classes that answer to what she's saying. We're going to go in depth as AFEK, and you will be able to understand exactly how the workflows go. And the panel here will actually have these people and also some of the people in the card over there. But please check out our socials for that information. And so it'll happen hopefully every month, but we're going to go in depth as to how best to go about the post-production processes. So yeah, and also catch our email in case you also want more information. We can find a way to tailor-make our things so we can answer to the way that the environment is right now. All right, him.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kevin, a filmmaker. I have a question for Mark and Jibril. So, Mark, you said you edited The People Shall. How was it psychologically for you? Because I know as an editor sitting down, seeing those kind of events that happened, you being on ground, how was it psychologically and how did you heal? And to Jibril, you as a young editor, how was it coming into the industry and pushing forward until becoming a nominated editor? Thank you.
Okay, so I must admit at the beginning, I'll answer quickly. At the beginning, it felt like a normal thing, but then when you start seeing the footage, you start seeing people getting shot, you see blood, you see all those atrocities, and they kind of IQ, you become a bit more sensitive to the material. But I think after seeing it longer and longer, now I became used to it to some degree, and then it was now, you kind of find a way to separate the feeling of disgust and the psychology of it, and then okay, I'm just telling a story. Because if I feel something and someone else will watch it, will also feel it. But yeah, it was not an easy thing, but I think with getting used to the material, then you become a bit more used to it, so to say. Yeah.
Well, for me, ni God, sina explanation. But ni kujituma. Yeah.
Okay, guys, you can catch them. Feel free to ask them more questions. We have our booth at the back there. There are some sweets. Justin, are there still sweets? We need to. There are sweets. But the catch is you have to scan the QR code to get a sweet.
My name is Justin Washira. I'm the chairman of the Association of Film Editors in Kenya. I'm a film and documentary editor. I run a post-production house called Videocraft Studio. And it's my great honor, to be here with you guys. Thank you very much to you guys. And these conversations, I can see you guys have enjoyed them. And if you want to have more of them, please join our forums, Association of Film Editors in Kenya. So we are established to be a network of professionals. We believe that these kind of conversations are the ones that are going to elevate our craft, and we are constantly having them. Once we identify within the conversations gaps in our knowledge, we have webinars, we have masterclasses within our forums. We also network with international organizations. We have an organization partnering with us called Tempo. Through them, we're even able to engage with guys like Adobe, other technology companies. So we are in the conversation, even including about, will AI take our jobs? We're able to send editors to AI, to Adobe. We sent editors to Adobe to ask them that very question. And I think we still have work for a few more years. So thank you very much. Please join us outside. Please be part of our forums. We are also on an accreditation journey such that we're able to grant the letters AFEK to professional editors who are accredited and therefore able to work worldwide and to service all the markets. So thank you very much. I also want to take a moment here to honor our fallen comrades. Nick Wambogo was represented on this stage by his colleague Mark. We have Frankie Ashiruka who passed away unfortunately a year or so ago. We have Mercy Adundo. We have recently Robert Safari. So we are a community, we are a network of friends, and once in a while we do come out of that dark room you've heard of and we interact like this. So asanteni sana, join us at our booth, scan our QR code, and we will continue to interact. Asanteni sana.